Future. Oh, hey, there we go. We're live. We're live with, you know what? We're there, 10 o'clock-ish, 10 o'clock. You know what happened today, Dalan? Very upsetting. Very upsetting. It was the most likely outcome, but it was still upsetting. The Warriors beat the Rockets in Game 7. They didn't beat them by like 20 or 30 points at least, but they still destroyed them.
So why are you so upset by this? Because I figured it was most likely going to happen.
It was the most likely outcome, yes, but it's still upsetting because it would have been cool to see Rockets versus the Cavaliers this time or something like that. And it's like, well, the Cavaliers was a little surprising that they actually made it out of the East, but as far as, I mean, it would have been interesting. Rockets versus Cavaliers. Now we get, like, for the fourth time, we get the Cavs versus the Warriors, which is like, Cavaliers are just going to start. Tired of seeing it, and they're gonna get destroyed. They're gonna get destroyed pretty much handily, So they're pretty much done. I'm trying to figure out, this little audacity looks a little concerning. But anyways, Salient points number 33 for this week. I'm your host, Carlos Macias, along with Dalan Kirkwood on the other end. Say hello to the folks, Dalan.
The co-host, hello, folks.
I see you again, Dalan. So we're here back on Salient Points, where, and Salient Points is your weekly top 10 news breakdown, where the points don't really matter, but they kind of do. Dalan and I mash up our top news articles for the last week, and out the other end comes out a weighted top 10 of our favorites. And this week, we're going to start it off with something that we just haven't been able to stop playing, Dalan. H1Z1, man. It came out last week on the PS4. It dropped as a free-to-play open beta. Oh, well, let me say this. It's the point of the show, right? 18 points, H1Z1. And it's a free-to-play open beta. It was released on PS4 last week. After waiting, it's been 3 years since it's been out on PC, apparently. And it was released on PC. It was released on PS4, and it was tweaked slightly to play on the consoles. And this is a quote from producer Terrence E. He said, "We redesigned H1Z1 on the PlayStation 4 to cater to the action shooter fan. We received fantastic feedback during the closed beta, and we are excited for all PlayStation 4 players to finally be able to experience the intense action of H1Z1 Battle Royale." One of the things they changed was that they removed the item management from the game, actually, and it was downloaded more than 1.5 million times within the first 24 hours, and it has amassed over 4.5 million players since launch. Dalan, is this our new Destiny, do you feel?
No, I'm still playing Destiny. No.
So what do you think of the game so far, man? I know you hadn't really heard about it before, right? So what do you think about it so far? What is your opinion?
I hadn't heard about it before. This is you saying I hadn't heard about it before. But no, I had heard about it before.
If you have, that's fine.
And I knew about the game. Yeah, I heard about it before, but I didn't know that the original PC version did so terribly, or at least apparently the developers almost killed their own game. Being that they had one game, which was survive zombies with other people. Then they had Battle Royale, which they called King of the Hill, and they put those two together. At some point, they decided to separate both of these games. They had just King of the Hill and Survivor mode by themselves, and then they started charging people money. So everybody who already had the game and had already bought the first one had to rebuy both games. And so many people just dropped off right away. And I was like, man, they really did almost shoot themselves in the foot. They lucked out with the fact that the that the TV consoles actually decided that they wanted to go with the Battle Royale.
I like how you call them. I like how you call them TV consoles, man. Like we're back in the 1990s or whatever.
Hey, what did I say?
Console. So the game has had quite a bit of a history, right? I mean, it dropped on PC, and then I know PUBG was sort of an offshoot of it, and all this stuff, and then PUBG went off and had this whole big old success. But it's kind of cool, man. I like how this thing has played out. So the game is really fun. It's a battle royale game, and it is, probably pretty simple compared to PUBG and otherwise, but we're just having a blast, right? You can play solo, you can play duels, you can play 5, and we were kind of having problems getting into games, right? That the server issues, I'm sure the servers were hammered. So the first couple of days, even like up to like a few days ago, we were still having problems. We were trying to figure out, it's like, okay, if we load in, it's only 4 of us, we have to search a game. But at first, you actually had suggested to not search a game, to just start off how we were. And then a few days later, we actually found out you probably should search to fill out your group, and it's easier to join. So it's a whole bunch of, the game is so fun that we're powering through these technical issues, man. These servers, not having enough servers, not, trying to connect, but it's been fun so far, man. And I'm glad that it's working out for them, that they're just building up a fan base. And this is one of those things, and I've told you guys before, right, when we're playing, is that H1Z1 is the battle royale on PS4, right? Because PUBG came out on Xbox One and it runs terribly. And now H1Z1, I mean, it has a lot of issues, but at least it runs, it's smooth, and it's smooth enough. How about that? I won't say it's super smooth, but it's one of those things where it's like PUBG has really shot itself in the foot multiple times, right? Because they should have had a PUBG on PS4 by now. And not only that, but then they go ahead and mention Fortnite on the thing that they're talking about. We're going to sue them and whatnot. And I believe actually it just came out. I just saw the story a little while ago that apparently there is a lawsuit going forward in Korea and South Korea. That's Fortnite versus PUBG to figure out, the copyright claims or whatever it is. But these guys are, PUBG is like being left in the dust, man, whether it's Fortnite or H1Z1 now on PS4. Do you think the dominance will continue, or do you think it'll be as easy as PUBG coming into the PS4 like, look, this is our version of it?
No, at this point, I think PUBG was actually too late to be able to put themselves in the forefront. I know there's a large player fan base for that game, but now everybody's jumping on the battlefield on the battle royale bandwagon. I mean, we're gonna have, what was it? I think it was Call of Duty that's doing the whole battle royale thing.
Yeah,
now
it's gonna be
one. They got Fortnite.
Yeah.
I know that there were other games that actually announced that they were doing the battle royale modes, but I can't remember all of them right now. But the fact being is that we're having too many now, and PUBG is just kind of fading into the limelight. So
yeah, it's exactly what you're saying. At this point, wherever they land, whenever they come in, it's like, dude, you guys are late. I mean, yeah, it's Call of Duty is in. I know we're gonna talk about Battlefield in a little while. I mean, they were like, we're not even touching that. We're not even touching the battle royale aspect. So when PUBG ever decides to get on PS4, it's like H1Z1, man, 1.5 million downloads within 24 hours, and it's just gonna continue to grow. It is a free to play. So basically, if you have a PS4, why would you not be playing it right now? So it's even at some point, I know one of our friends was saying that it's free to play now. So we might have to pay for it later on or whatever. So we'll figure that out. But I would think they would at least keep a free portion of it, or you have less options, or you don't have as much customization, but we'll find out when they actually fully release. Anything else, Dalan, before we move on to the next thing?
The last thing I wanted to say about it is with your brother, when he showed me the fact that it was still on Steam and there was like no player base, I could understand why when they put up the servers, they didn't put up enough servers, because they only had like 3,000 active players at a time. So when you get hit with 2 million suddenly when you launch on a console, when you think that players are still going to be upset at you, that's really overwhelming for any company. To go from 3,000 to 2 million in a day, that's crazy.
Yeah. Well, and I think companies they've actually come out and publicly have said that this is something that we do. We under deliver. We don't have enough servers. They already know right from the bat. So unfortunately, I think to them it's like, well, we'd rather launch with however many servers we have, and then we'll just deal with it later. And later on, we'll deal with it and we'll add to it or whatever it is. So it's kind of a problem. It's not the first time. It's not the last time it'll happen. But yeah, I think it's definitely like they were not sure. It's like, are people going to show up? And it's like, well, you do something free to play and it's battle royale. People are going to show up. So it's good that they're responding, and they've been updating the game quite regularly. So, we should keep getting down with H1Z1. What else do we have next, Dalan?
What we have next, number 2 item at 14 points, is talking about the PS4's final phase, along with PS5 being, quote unquote, by the PlayStation CEO John Codera, the PlayStation 5 being years away. So this being said, we already know that Sony announced the fact that they're not going to actually be quoting any type of hardware announcements at E3 this year, but when he was asked about whether or not the PS5 would actually be coming out at any point, he said, "We will use the next 3 years to prepare the next steps to crouch down so we could jump higher in the future." And I'm thinking to myself, puns. But I was also thinking about the fact that he said they were going to use the next 3 years to prepare for the next steps. Now, everybody thinks that this means that the PlayStation 5 is going to be coming out in 2021. And I mean, it's still the longest gap in between the life cycle for any other systems that have come out so far, because now this is the longest gap between consoles being at 8 years. But the fact being is that just because he says that they're going to prepare over the next 3 years does not mean that it's going to release on year 3. And everybody's just hoping that that's the case. I think that down the line that they're just going to actually make the announcement that they're still working on the PS5, because they got to make some kind of a huge change to make it differentiate between the PS3 and the PS4. I mean, for you, do you think that the PS5 is actually going to come out in 2021?
I think it's pretty likely. I think it's a safe bet that that's kind of when we'll start seeing it, because and you know, it's funny, it's kind of like when you get into the weeds, you start to understand what he's actually saying. So what he's saying is that well, yeah, don't expect us to keep it super exciting for now. We're kind of focusing on whatever player base we have. And at some point, yeah, you reach a saturation point, you know, whether it's with hardcore gamers or whoever it is, you reach a point where it's like, oh, okay, we're kind of on the, we went over the hill, so to speak, right? Where it's kind of on a downhill trip now. And it doesn't mean it's going to completely fall off, but it's to say that, look, we're reaching our saturation point. We've been so successful. Basically, you know, it's like a little humble brag, right? It's like we've been so successful with the PS4 that, you know, at this point, it's like we're reaching a saturation point. We're working on the next thing. But yeah, it doesn't mean that it's anytime soon, right? It doesn't mean it's going to be in 2019, 2020. Yeah, I think at the most likeliest thing, and I know our buddy Vicious 696 Paris Lily, he mentioned something that I thought was pretty interesting, that PS5 drops whenever it is. He said, I believe he said 2021 Horizon sequel, and it'll just create the next wave of interest, right? And people like, well, I do want to play the next Horizon. The first one was pretty good. So I mean, I don't, as far as, you know, the E3, they already said they're just going to show like about 4 games or something like that. They're going to focus on that. Going forward, maybe we see a glimpse of it in next year, 2019, 2020, we maybe see the actual box, and yeah, maybe there's a release in 2021. I think
that's you making the pre-consumption that they're even working on it right now. I mean, they have to be working on it. Well, you say that. See, that's what I'm talking about. You say they have to be working on it. No, they don't. They're making plenty of money just on memberships alone.
But you have to be ready for the next thing, man. It's just research and development. It doesn't mean that they have the box already ready to go. It's like, oh, okay, we're just gonna wait till the PS4 completely falls off. What it means is they're focusing on it. They've been working on it. And at some point, they're going to have to get these chipsets and all this other stuff that goes into the console and make some definitive decisions. I was like, okay, what are people going to see? What can they expect, right, of the system? And then we're going to start seeing it. So it's one of those things where, like, your PS4 is going to be good. Your PS4 Pro is going to be good for the next few years. But of course, there's going to have to be a new one. And it's called research and development, Dalan. It doesn't mean
I understand
exactly what it's going to be. It just means they're you know, tinkering around, figuring out what they're going to do next. So, but yeah, you know, I'm pumped. I just like how people get all up in, you know, they all get confused and they get hot and bothered and they're like, what is happening? Does that make my PS4 obsolete? It's like, no. It's fine. You're good. But it's like any technology, man. And I know with the last one, well, we saw from PS3 to PS4, and I think part of that was like the 2008 crash and all that stuff, and people were having, you know, video games are a luxury ultimately. Right, play them and their luxury. So I think we had a prolonged cycle between the PS3 and the PS4. And at some point, you know, Sony's like, okay, well, that happened during that time, but we're pretty successful and we're making enough inroads and we're making enough progress where it's like, all right, we got to get back to the 5-6 year life cycle, you know. But you know, I'm excited. We'll see what happens. You need to buy a new system anyways, Dalan. I'm sure I'm guessing you're not ready, right?
Like I said, I'm gonna actually wait for the PS4 Pro space to actually go by, and I'm just gonna wait for the PS5. So I'm good. I don't need 4K TV like everybody else does. I mean, I want a 4K TV. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not as gung ho. Let me sell all my stuff so I can get me a 4K TV like some other people are.
Yeah, I mean the adoption rate on HD TVs have kind of gone up in recent recent times. That's going to reach a saturation point. And by the time that the PS5 comes out, games will finally run at full 4K, at full HDR, you know, so it'll be all right. You know, I think that's the next move, right? Because right now we're at this kind of funky checkerboard, you know, they call it like checkerboard 4K or all these little fancy terms. It's like basically they're saying it's not full 4K, it's not full HDR, it's not 60 frames per second. So that's what we could be seeing, you know, in the next console. And I think 2021 seems fair. Maybe 2020 if they want to push it a little bit, but I think it's a few years off for sure.
Well, I think a 10-year run is fair by itself. Like I said, 8 years was a long time, but the way that they went with the PS4 and throwing out the PS4 Pro.
Oh no, man, you gotta throw that. Yeah, you gotta throw that out the window. You gotta throw that out the window. 10-year lifespan. No, man, these consoles are like on a 5-6 years. I mean, PCs are constantly being updated, right? So these consoles at some point they start looking antiquated.
Say what you want on that, but when Nintendo decided to wait just a little bit longer to be able to update their particular system, they went from the Wii U to the Switch, and they almost dominated the market right off the bat.
Yeah,
so
but
waiting a little bit longer to be able to put more stuff into it. I mean,
but that's actually completely opposite, Dalan, because the Wii U crashed and burned. The Wii U crashed and burned, and within 4 years they released the Switch. So if anything, it was a more protracted time lapse. And if anything, they didn't extend it. If anything, they're like, we need to kill this thing off ASAP because we need to drop the Switch. So it wasn't a 10-year cycle at that point. It was a 4-year cycle, shorter than anything, shorter than PS4, shorter than PS3. It was a very short cycle. But I think 5 or 6 years is okay, man. But of course, you know, it's gonna be a sticker shock. It's gonna be like, you want me to drop another $300-$400? It's kind of a tough pill to swallow, but we'll be all right. We'll be all right. Games will run better. They'll look better. They'll look prettier. All that other stuff. But yeah, we're a ways out. Anything else?
No, that was it I have for mine. What do you have next on you?
So the next one with 13 points is so Battlefield 5 reveal, and there was a bit of controversy over that. We got our first taste of it last week. They dropped the trailer. One of the things that were confirmed for the game was that it's set in World War II. It will not include a battle royale mode, and this is the uproar that it caused in the internet. There was one woman featured in the trailer, Dalan, and apparently it set the internet ablaze. Some players claim that it makes the game seem, quote, historically inaccurate, unquote. Oscar Gabrielson, DICE's general manager, said on Twitter, he said, quote, first, let me be clear about one thing. Player choice and female playable characters are here to stay. We want Battlefield 5 to represent all those who are part of the greatest drama in human history and to give players the choice to choose and customize the characters they play with. Then he continued on saying, our commitment as a studio is to do everything we can to create the games that create games that are inclusive and diverse. We always set out to push boundaries and deliver unexpected experiences, but above all, our games must be fun. So number one, Dalan, and this is a non-controversial part, is, you know, how does the game itself look? And the follow-up, what do you think of the controversy surrounding this quote-unquote historical inaccuracy?
Well, I think the game looks beautiful, brother. First off, I actually did watch the trailer for that, and I was like, yeah, this game actually looks like it could be some fun. It's got some extra choices, especially now that they're featuring women in this game. And I didn't think it was historically inaccurate at all. I mean, I actually decided to check in on it as soon as I heard about this controversy. I was like, man, almost 250,000 women served in the British Army for World War II on both their land and abroad. So I'm like, how is this historically inaccurate? Maybe a woman didn't run around in the middle of the battlefield wearing a hook, but it is not historically inaccurate. I mean,
yeah, maybe she wasn't the superstar, right? Maybe she wasn't a general. Maybe she wasn't. But there's always been women involved, and at war, I mean, they might have different capacities than a man would, but it's like it's just this whole nonsense, right? See, I kind of try to push back against the snowflake and kind of the PC culture because I'm like, you know what? Sometimes people gotta relax. But in this case, I'm kind of like, you know what? And it's not even about like, let's be gender inclusive or let's be just inclusive for inclusive sake. It's like, well, they did have some capacity. Now, remember, this is a video game. So how realistic will a video game be when you can pick up a health back or you could just step a couple steps back, you know, take a couple steps back and just regain your health? So how real is this thing really overall? So
it's about as real as 3 people jumping on the back of one horse with flamethrowers and running down the field. That's how.
Yeah. So it's really like Much Ado About Nothing, right? It's kind of like people are like, this historically inaccurate. Like, wait, what do you know? You weren't there. You didn't see these Christopher Nolan movies. But yeah, I don't know. Besides that, it's kind of a whole bunch of nonsense, man. It's like, this is what you guys are up in arms about? It's fine. It's okay. It's fine that there's a woman involved in the game, or that you can pick female characters. It's great. Why wouldn't you have these options? It is a video game after all. It's not like it's a simulation of the war, where you get one shot and it's battle royale, last man standing. So basically, H1Z1 is more realistic than Battlefield 5, is what I'm saying, Dalan.
I think one problem is that even though there were women that were actually fighting at that time, it was just too much of men glorifying men at the time, because it was a different time where we treated women way differently than we do today. #MeToo and stuff like that. So it's a completely different world than what it was. I know some people actually make that as a defense, but it is purely the truth. It is a fact that back then men were always putting themselves on a pedestal, even though yes, men did great things.
It still happens. It still happens. And we're kind of in the middle of sort of a cultural shift, and it's fine. It's okay. You guys step back, enjoy your game. So what? The woman's in the game. It's fine. It's perfect.
Step back, enjoy your game. Just let it happen.
Yeah. Well, besides that, I mean, the game was kind of cool. They did show a trailer. I didn't get too much of a sense. It was kind of like a crazy trailer where there's a whole bunch of stuff happening. It's a very exciting trailer and all that. But it looks good, man. It's set in World War II, so they're following kind of Call of Duty's lead, and they're like, we're going back to World War II. Actually, Battlefield 1 was it set in 1 or 2? So it's kind of continuing that precedent, right? That Battlefield 1 had already gone down that road. So it's just continuing that. It looks good. I want to see more of, okay, what does it really look like? There's a couple of parts in it where you kind of see the heads, the heads up display or whatever, and it looks like they're actually playing it. But I'm like, well, I kind of want to see. I want to see what it really looks like.
That's mainly what everybody wants. We want to see the live gameplay to see what it's actually going to look like. So,
but it looks good, and it's out on, oh man, I didn't put the date, October. It's out in October. The main thing, it's avoiding Call of Duty, and it's for sure avoiding Red Dead Redemption 2. So it's going to come out during that time.
You said for sure. You want to make sure that it's nowhere near the actual Red Dead Redemption 2.
Red Dead Redemption, man, it created a whole crater. The whole situation was like, this is the blast radius. Stay away from Red Dead Redemption 2. Unless it gets delayed, and all these companies are going to be upset. That it's like, really? We try to avoid this game that got delayed again, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, Battlefield 5 is fine. It's fine that women are an option. Don't be so upset, Internet. It's okay. What do we got next, Dale?
All right, what we have next is number 4 at 13 points. Nintendo has a plan of getting multiple Switches into every household that starts with a new bundle. Now, with this bundle, it apparently is only going to be on the Japanese network, which kind of sucks for us because sometimes Americans like to be cheap. But it's going to include just the base Switch. It's going to have the color Joy-Cons. It's going to have the straps with it, and it's not going to have any accessories. It's not going to have a charger. It's not going to have the I can't even think about the docking station.
Yeah, the docking station.
I wouldn't be surprised if it didn't come with a box. But the fact is that it's going to have less things at a discounted price, and it's only going to be on the My Nintendo network or on the My Nintendo store. Apparently, they're going to discount it at about $50 to $80. People can't seem to actually figure out the exact translation of how much yen is versus the US dollar, but it's going to be selling for somewhere between $230 and $250. So basically, if you want a second Switch here in America, you're going to have to pay full price. But if you do end up trying to get an imported Switch that just sells the Switch by itself, don't forget to buy a charger that doesn't actually damage your console.
Oh yeah, that it breaks your console and then you're kind of screwed, right?
Yeah, you don't want that. No, I actually did have a question for you though, because I can't actually remember if it's the case, and I'm pretty sure you actually told me about it once. Is the Switch region free? Like, if you bought a Japanese Switch, would you be able to play American games on it anyway?
I don't, as far as I can remember, yeah, man. I mean, we'd have to look into it. I actually haven't really heard one way or the other. But I think it is. I think at least the cartridges are. If you're gonna play online, then you're just kind of subject to the online game, right? Are you getting it from the Japanese eShop, from the American eShop? But I don't. I think this is sort of a cool idea, and this is kind of the route I would have taken had I, because I have two Switch consoles, Dalan, and this would have been a cool option to be like. Well, and the reason I bought them was because I did the health calculations right. I'm gonna have to get a dock. I'm gonna have to get this. I'm gonna have to get that. And it's kind of like, well, I might as well just buy a whole separate console to get the controller, the dock, the charger. It was adding up, but it's interesting to see it. And I think Nintendo is smart to say, look, if you don't need the dock we're selling it for like $90, and you don't need, if you don't need all that, you just need the system. Here you go. So, but I mean, so it's sort of, it does have to be sold as a second Switch unit, right? Because other than that, it's kind of like you're basically kind of killing that aspect of you're supposed to connect it onto your TV. When you get home, you drop it into the dock or whatever it is. But it also could be sold like that, and then people down the line, they're like, you know what, I'll just get a dock later, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say, well, the way it seems, it makes it seems like with them not actually releasing it as a singular system by itself in America, it makes it seem like America does not have that market anymore for the mobile games. I mean, yeah. I'm pretty sure that America still wants mobile games. If the Switch was sold by itself, I'm sure it would sell just as good. And being at a discounted price, I'm sure people would still go and buy it and possibly even have multiple Switches in their house. I understand that this is more for the Japanese culture, because they're more known for their mobile gaming and the fact that they like to have multiple consoles in their households. But the fact is, we also have that same basis, even though there's fewer people that are living in.
Well, I think it's just a matter of market, and yes, the portables historically have been more popular in Japan than they have been here, and I think it might be a case where it's like we like having our games on a big screen TV, and maybe specifically in like big cities like say Tokyo or something like that, they're in reduced spaces, and so you have short. You don't have as much space, right? So somebody might be using the TV and you're able to play on your Switch. So it's perfect for that. In America, we have huge houses, 20 rooms to a house or whatever it is. So it's maybe not much of a, you can't, the market is just different in that sense. We're fine with having TV consoles. Every room has a TV and all that, and you can just plug in whenever you want. So I don't know, but I don't know. They could test it, man. I don't know why they wouldn't test it, right? But
yeah,
if you buy it without a dock, you have to. Yeah, I have to import it from Japan, right? I think that's why you were asking if it was region free and all that.
Yeah,
stuff.
It's like, why not import it from Japan and just have your region free game for a discounted price, and then buy your games after that?
Well, how about this? If you were a first-time Switch buyer, would you have gone the just portable route, or you would have gotten it with the dock? What would you have done if you hadn't bought your Switch up this day?
I would have bought the Switch and my power cord, and I would have actually, I would have bought my Switch and my power cord and bought my dock later. Just period. So that way, I actually have the choice. Yeah, so I mean, when I first got my Switch, I didn't even use my dock for the first 2 months.
Yeah, so it's good, they're giving people options, right? I don't know if I would have gone that route. I'm always kind of like, I mean, when I bought the Wii U, that garbage pile on fire's console, I went the whole thing. I bought the whole deluxe version. I think it had a bigger hard drive. The console was a kind of a more sleeker black color, and it included a game. When I go with the PSVR, I got the whole bundle where it comes with the moves and the camera and everything. So I don't know. As far as I'm concerned, I'm like the perfect consumer to sell me up on something, because I'm like, you know what? Just let me have all the different functions. So yes, for me, this wouldn't have worked. I don't know. Maybe to them, the American market is like that, where it's not going to work. The upgrade program is not going to work. Well, they'll buy this first, and then that, or maybe in a sense, maybe they don't trust us to know the difference, Dalan. They're over here like, we're selling them a console on TV, and they're gonna have to upgrade. They're gonna be like, how do I connect to my TV? So, because I know in Japan, or no, they did, but I know in Japan, I think the DS and the 3DS, they were not sold with the electrical port, or with the outlet to connect, and the power cord, and they've just been used to buying these things separately. But here, you've always had the power cord, right? You bought your PS4, you bought your PS3, you always had a power cord. The only one was, I think about like 3DSs ago or 2DS. One of them did not include the power cord, which
No,
was weird, which I'm a little surprised. One of them did.
The power cord. I remember the one where you had the DSs that didn't have the joystick. Or it was a 3DS.
No,
right?
no. I'm talking specifically. No, because right from the beginning they came with the power cord. But I think one of the iterations, whether it was 2DS or 3DS, did not come with the power cord and actually had it on the box. It was like, this does not come with the power cord, which was like one version. Maybe they abandoned that and they were like, you know what, we need to keep including this. You know, so. So I think maybe the Japanese are just more willing to upgrade later, and they don't see that happening here. Hold on, my computer's over here trying to shut down or something, man. Hopefully we survive it. So next, unless you have anything else to say, Dalan, we'll move on to the next one.
No, that was all I have for that.
So with 9 points, we're gonna talk about the April 2018 MPD sales. I know you don't dig the sales too much, Dalan, but oh man, I didn't even switch it over. I'm over here. Listen, I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah, I see the fact that we were about to talk about Best Buy, but we're not talking about
but here we go. So I found it. So the best-selling game of the month, of course, was PS4's God of War. It sold over 5 million copies. So, I mean, it sold incredibly well, man, I would think, for God of War. The top 10 was number 1, God of War, number 2, Far Cry 5, MLB 18, The Show, which you're like, why does that sell well, Dalan? It's a sports game. Number 4... Number 4 is Labo Variety Kit. I mean, number 5, Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, Mario Kart 8, Grand Theft Auto 5, Call of Duty World War II, Super Mario Odyssey is still up there, NBA 2K18, and Labo the Robot Kit, which is a more expensive version, actually was all the way down at number 21. So, and as far as hardware, the PS4 beat out Nintendo Switch and Xbox One. I don't know, Dalan, I know you can't see it right now, but is there any surprises on the list or anything that kind of jumps out at you to say like, okay, oh, but that made the top 10 or anything?
Actually, honestly, I'm not surprised by any of this. I had actually heard at some point that Madden was having their own issues, and you didn't say that they were anywhere on the list, and they're normally on the list every single year. But
Dalan, it's a sports game. It's a sports game, but it came out in August, man. I mean,
I know.
It's in the top 20, and then the next one's coming out in a few months. So
I know, but I'm just like, hey, it doesn't matter. It's still Madden, and there was the whole craze where people were just buying Madden just every month. It didn't actually matter. I mean, I'm used to my family trying to buy Madden every single year, but this year they didn't even talk about it. So.
Dalan, it is May 2018. We're still a few months out from Madden being released yet again. The last time it released was August last year.
That does not matter specifically. I mean, when was Mario Odyssey released, Carlos?
Yeah, but that's Mario Odyssey, man. Nintendo has evergreen.
If you're gonna make the argument that Madden came out,
what argument? What's the argument?
Odyssey came out at the end of last year, right?
It's an evergreen game, Dalan. It came out. It's the biggest launch of Nintendo.
Madden is a sports game. It's a sports game. Don't make the same argument and then try and defend it against it.
It's not the same argument, Dalan. Madden's been out. I don't have the top 20, but I'm sure Madden's somewhere along the line in the top 20 or whatever.
I never said
NBA
it wasn't.
2K18 is in there. I don't.
Like I said,
I don't understand the argument you're trying to make.
I'm just saying I'm surprised that Madden's not in the top 10. I'm not surprised that it's on the list.
Just so we can move on, Dalan. Madden was released last August. It's released every August. The season isn't even the football season isn't going on right now. I would think it's maybe in the top 20. Maybe I'll find it for next time or something like that. The game came out in last year, August 28. What are we in now? 2017. The next one's out in a few months. That one's gonna be in the top 10, and it'll be in the top 10 for a few months. So I don't understand the argument, Dalan. But anyways, anything else other than your nonsense argument that you're like, well, what about Mario Odyssey? Like, dude, this is the biggest game. It's what led Nintendo through the holidays last year. So yes, Mario Odyssey is gonna be in there. Grand Theft Auto 5 is number 7 on there. Mario Kart 8 is on there. Donkey Kong Country actually made the top 5, which is pretty cool.
You sound surprised by that.
I don't know. It's just it's a re-release, right? Well, the same as Mario Kart 8, I guess. But
I think it's Donkey Kong Country Returns Tropical Freeze, right?
No, I think it's just Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze.
Okay, well, but they made their whole new formula to actually making the game look good and have it play kind of like the old school one. So I'm actually kind of not surprised because Donkey Kong country was always good, or at least.
Well, and I think we shouldn't really be surprised when they drop Smash Brothers at the end of the year, and it's kind of like, this is the same game we had on Wii U, right? It's like they basically threw out the Wii U and shot it in the backyard and all that. So all these games that are being re-released on the Switch is like, well, we shouldn't be surprised. It's like, well, people didn't play it the first time around. They might have only sold 1 million or 2 copies or whatever. But I do like seeing this the Labo Variety Kit, and I know we talked about it in Japan, so that kind of translates over to that market because the Variety Kit was the one that sold pretty well in Japan. And then the Labo Robot Kit was like way down the line, right? So it's interesting to see that at least it's on the top 10 that Nintendo kind of pulled off a new successful line, right? That it has a new sort of I would call it the Lego series that they have, but it's in cardboard form, right? But yeah, so I like seeing it up there. And then God of War, of course, it's not too surprising that God of War is on there, but it's still pretty cool to see that. Hey man, God of War, Kratos still sells. Kratos still has the juice, as I like to call it. As far as the hardware, the PS4 beat out Nintendo Switch and Xbox One, which actually that's kind of interesting, right? So the Switch is, I didn't look deeper into this, but I'd like to see, where the Switch is, if it's kind of dipping down or what's happening. But, this time around the PS4 won out. So it's still strong, man. And with H1Z1, people have plenty of reasons to pick a console up, I guess. Anything else, Dalan, before we move on?
Nope.
Yeah, I know. Sales are like, you're over here arguing with me about Madden, and you don't understand when it came out, when the season
I
is.
do understand.
It's not the same argument. It's not the same argument. It's not. MLB just came out, man.
I was partially going based on something you had said.
But you didn't even understand.
Yes, it's a sports game.
You didn't even understand what I said, though.
I do understand what you said. I understand the season's over. Not everybody's thinking about football at this point.
Why would it be in the top 10, man? And it probably still is in the top 20. It does matter.
Because it's a video game. Because it's a video game. People love video games. Why do you think we're here? Carlos, we're here.
You're making no sense, man. How about this? Again, MLB 18 is number 3 because the season just started, or started a few months out. So we're kind of deep into MLB season. NBA 2K18 came out in October, so that's a couple months after Madden. So it's still hanging on at number 10, and we're kind of in the middle of the playoffs. We're in the middle of the finals, so its interest level is higher. In a few months, when Madden is out, it'll be in the top 10, and it'll be there for a few months. So I don't understand.
Well, all right, let me put it this way. It's the last way I'll say it. I remember a time where Madden stayed at the top 10 year round, basically. That's
I mean, it might have. How about this? It might have. You don't even follow sales. You want to move on from sales as soon as possible. So how do you know that it was always at the top 10 forever? So.
I don't follow all sales, but like I said, my family loved themselves some NFL. I used to play
anecdotal evidence, Dalan. Yes, anecdotal evidence. How about this? Even. What do you mean? No, you're telling me your family, your cousins, everyone. That is just people you know. It's very anecdotal. It's nothing but anecdotal.
People I know that actually look into the same stuff. All right, that's what that is. That's why we're having this argument.
Still anecdotal, Dalan. You didn't take it like the overview of everybody that's in America. That everybody's in California. You just talk to a few people and you're like, oh, you always buy Madden. All right. That means everyone always buys Madden. That's not how that works.
Carlos, see, that's why you're not paying attention. I'm saying my cousins actually looked at the statistics of these games still being sold at high frequency.
Okay. How about this? How about this? You might be right based on, and you don't even have anything to back it up. No, but I think there might have been. I think over time, they might have dipped. And I know the NFL's having problems with all the controversies and everything like that. So I think it may have dipped. But if you really want to keep arguing the point, whatever point you're trying to argue, bring us some evidence next time.
No, we're not arguing that point.
What's next?
No, yeah.
What's next?
All right, what we had next is number 6, and I'll try and keep this one short, being at 7 points, being about Blizzard talking about Overwatch 2. And their current Overwatch game, of course, being that, of course, it really the senior game producer, Matthew Hawley, I can't actually pronounce his last name properly. I assume that's how you pronounce it, though. He says his team is going to be focusing on really keeping the community engaged for the 6v6 shooter that we have on the line of service. In regard to, oh, I'm sorry, the other one was it was porting to Switch. So you got me all turned upside down, Carlos, with your argument. You got me all hot blooded.
Hey, settle down, man. What's the story?
I can't settle down. I want to throw a rock at your forehead sometime. All right. The other half of the story was whether or not they'd be actually porting Overwatch to Switch. And what he actually said in regards to porting it to Switch is there are challenges in running on platforms that we're not already on. Otherwise, we would probably already be on some of these other platforms. Now, I understand that Overwatch has the potential to lose some of its fan base simply because over the past 2 years, they've actually been doing routine events, and they're about to be on year 3. And since year 1, apparently they've actually changed the constant balance of all their heroes that they have on the system, and they still want to actually focus on Overwatch 1 rather than trying to focus on an Overwatch 2. Now, he never actually said that they weren't going to make an Overwatch 2, but Blizzard won't actually put out any of the retention data of how many players are actually still playing Overwatch 1 and whether or not it's even still a good idea to focus on Overwatch 1, or at least that would be my takeaway from it. But do you think that Overwatch or Blizzard should move on to Overwatch 2 or just another IP?
Well, it's one of those games where we could kind of tie it into Rocket League. I know we talk about it all the time, but it's one of those things where it's like it's a live service game, right? The name is Overwatch. It's not Overwatch 2. It's not whatever. It's like it's Overwatch and it's constantly updated. So, I mean, I was hearing a little bit about how maybe their player base, they were kind of dipping in and out, and I know they've had free play events when it's like, one of my cousins, he gets into Overwatch a lot, and I talk to him all about the tournaments and what's happening in that world, in that scene, and he tells me that it's just fine, right? But you might not be able to see it at a micro level, but if you take a step back, like the cells that we were talking about earlier, at a macro level, you might be able to see that it's like, all right, maybe the player count has dipped. So I think that it depends, right? If the player count is dipping, then maybe they do have to kind of go back to the drawing board a little bit and say, okay, let's work on an Overwatch 2, and then that'll be our live game. It's kind of like with what happened with Destiny, right? Destiny 1 and Destiny 2. Destiny 1, if you remember, Dalan, that thing was running on PS3 and Xbox 360, which was like 10, 15-year-old consoles at that point, right? Or 10, 12-year-old tech that were in those consoles. So it's one of those things where it just depends, man. If you have the player count, why would you make a quote-unquote sequel, right? You just keep going. You keep releasing new content for it. You keep it going like Rocket League, right? Where Rocket League, you don't really hear them talking about 2 because 2 would imply that your player base has kind of dipped and it's time to move on, right? It's time to say, you know what, our player base dipped. We need to get them back. Let's go back to the drawing board. Let's make the sequel, and then we'll see what happens next. But I think for now, as long as they could keep the player base count up and interested, it's like why would you go on to 2? What about you, Dan?
That's my question. Is I don't know if they actually still have that player base because Blizzard's not actually releasing their numbers. They're very wary on doing that because there are companies that actually end up releasing their numbers and then suddenly everybody's like, oh no, and then their stock drops.
Well, are you talking about Activision doesn't know their numbers because Steam is not releasing it to them? They should know their numbers. Blizzard,
no,
right? Or what are you referring to?
I'm sure that Blizzard knows their numbers for the retention rate of their players, but they're not releasing it as public information.
Well, yeah, but that's for them to know. That's for them to know and care about, and that's where they would make that decision, right? So it's not really up to us for us to know and determine what they're gonna do as far as their business. It's up to them to say it's like, oh, we were at 2 million concurrents, or whatever it is, right? Whatever the number is, and they're like, oh, we're down to 100,000. We got to do something, So it's really up to them to figure that out. But for me, it's like, as long as your platform is successful, why would you move on? I mean, that's the thing, right? So the closest comparison maybe I can think of was Destiny 1, Destiny 2, right? Destiny 1 came out sort of at the end of its the life cycle of PS3 and 360, right? So we were going into new systems, and that was sort of the quote-unquote excuse, right? That they were like, well, we're moving on to PS4. We got to leave the 360 and PS3 behind. So we're going to do 2. So maybe I can see that, right? I can see that with Overwatch 2. And even with Rocket League, man. Rocket League, we go into PS5. We go into Xbox 1, 2, 3. I don't know, whatever they call it. And to them, they're like, well, we just got to make a sequel to build up that fan base on those consoles.
Well, let me actually say it this way, because for Overwatch, after a year and a half, it just seems like they're still playing the same exact content that they had a year and a half ago. Same levels, just more characters with a couple of different moves. I mean, having new characters be released, that's probably
Do
part of
you
what
know
actually
that? Do
kept
you
the
know
fan.
do you know that it's the same levels? They haven't added any levels. I don't play Overwatch, right? I don't follow it
Yeah,
that closely. Are you sure they haven't released new levels, new content? I would think they
yeah.
would have been an
There was a point during at like the end of year one where they did this whole overhaul and they added a whole bunch of stuff. Then after that, it was a bunch of
update.
cosmetic things, and they were actually fixing the loot boxes so that people weren't getting the same thing over and over again. I'm pretty sure you remember that controversy where people were very upset about that.
Yeah.
So they were fixing a lot of their mechanics for their games, but at some point they stopped creating content. They kept releasing the same type of events they had over the previous years. It's like seeing Iron Banner every week, and you're not getting anything new.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I
well, that
mean,
was Destiny
we'll see.
reference.
We'll see, man. I think it's just up to them to see what numbers they're comfortable with and if they're gonna decide to move on, right? That's pretty much all I have to say about Overwatch, just kind of in a general view since I don't
Well,
follow it that much.
okay,
But
well let me put it this way, because there are a couple of different modes for Overwatch, because I recently played it again. There's only really a couple of different modes. And with Rocket League, at least when they got stagnant for a minute, they released like 3 different modes: the hockey puck mode, the freaking basketball mode, and you had all kinds of different modes that you could actually go out and play. I just don't see that with Overwatch. So I'm wondering if they even should still stick with the same game. Don't get me
yeah,
wrong, they might still have a good fan base for trying to do tournaments and esports arenas, but I don't know how long it'll last in this respect. If they
well,
don't
yeah.
do
I mean,
something new with season three, then
they made some significant investments as far as, and I don't know if it's Activision specifically, but they have a league, and I bet some of their players even have a salary, so it's
yeah.
pretty serious, man. They're taking Overwatch serious, and I mean, even if they made an investment into esports and playing and paying these athletes, if you want to call them that, paying salaries, I'm sure it's pretty serious. So whether it's Overwatch 1 or Overwatch 2, they're just gonna have to make that transfer, right? They're just gonna have to be all right. We're playing Overwatch 2 now, so deal with that.
Okay,
But
that being said, there's not they haven't announced anything for a Switch port for
okay.
Overwatch.
So yeah, and I mean, I actually that's kind of a little more interesting, I guess, because I was thinking about it as like if they were gonna go down to put it on the Switch, I guess they could do it how Resident Evil 7 is doing it with the cloud,
the Steam or the stream.
with the cloud. But I would think it'd be pretty hard, man, because you're streaming the actual game. From a PC off the cloud, and then you're actually trying to compete across that same network. So, and I'm not an expert at internet and how bandwidth works or nothing like that, Dylan. But it just seems like it would plug the line. How about that? In the most,
so many people would be on at the same time.
Yeah, so I don't know how it would work, but I guess they could do it that way, right? They could do it how Resident Evil 7 is doing it through the cloud edition. So next up, Dalan, with 7 points is we're going to talk about Sony portables. Sony just might be considering dipping their toes back into the port. And this is after we talked about it being dead, right, last week. Sony is thinking that they might consider dipping their toes into the portable waters again following the less than stellar Vita run. Video game industry consultant Serkan Toto said on Twitter, quote, in an interview with Bloomberg Japan, Sony Interactive Entertainment CEO Kodera says his company, quote, so there's a quote within the quote, considering various options around the PS Vita again. This comes after his predecessor House said last fall that portable gaming is not a big market. So I don't know about you, Dylan, but do you feel like this is a pleasant about face brought on by the success of the Nintendo Switch, or why? What do you think caused them to maybe have a change of mind or perspective on a follow up to the Vita?
That's actually what I was talking about earlier in the salient points, is that I believe that there's still a market for the American people to actually want portable games. I mean, when you have, as long as you make the system well enough for people to actually
people will come. Is that what you're saying?
If you build it, they will
Yeah.
come. If it's good, they will stay. That's just it.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I mean, we have to see, right? But yes, I think for sure they saw the Nintendo Switch take off, and they're like, "Ooh, maybe we were onto something on the Vita, but they weren't able to execute, right?" And now at least they're sort of saying like, "Ooh, we might be interested." I mean, all they got to do is make it easily hackable as a PSP, and they'll have a runaway success. But you know, it's kind of weird because it was like I was ready to. I mean, we RIP'd the Vita last week, right? So on our Salient points. So it's kind of like, all right, now they're saying like, okay, we're gonna consider options, and
well, they just said that they weren't gonna sell any more physical games, right? They were still gonna have their digital sales and stuff.
Well, but I think they're done with the Vita though. That's for definite. They're done with the Vita. If you know what he's saying is they're considering their various options, is I would think it's more of a, okay, we're going to release a new version. It plugs nicely with your PS4 or whatever it is. It has a sort of a dock, you know, situation or something like that. I don't know if they'll completely copy the Switch, but
yeah, I hope they do.
It's like it's, you know, or maybe they're trying to kind of pull some of that audience that the Switch is getting, right? Maybe they make it so it's another NVIDIA Shield version of a Vita, and you know, it's easily cross-compatible. You get trophies on it, and I'm down, man. I getting trophies on the go. That's why I love the Vita so much. So, but to me, it's a pleasant.
I was just suddenly thinking about it. I was like, okay, Nintendo's got their portables. PlayStation now has their portables. What about Xbox? What if Xbox had a portable?
I think Xbox is just in its own different world, man. It's in its own different situation. They're not releasing.
Let's focus on they were like, let's focus on the connection to PC. Let them do their portables. We'll do PC.
They're not releasing hardware sales numbers. They're not about that. I think. And you know what? It's interesting. I heard, I think it was Xbox Unlocked. It's an IGN podcast, and they actually had I think his name was Robert Bach or Robbie Bach. I'm sorry if I'm getting the name wrong, but it's one of the recent episodes that they did. And he was one of the creators of the Xbox. And it's a lot of the stuff that he was saying on that podcast on that interview was that it's like Microsoft is a software company, has always been a software company, right? So it's like it's this company that you're trying to make a change. The fact that they even made an Xbox in the first place is a complete shift. You know, it's a complete shift of what they actually are as a company. So it shouldn't be surprising that they're trying to make software playable everywhere, right? That they're trying to make it playable on an Xbox, that they're trying to make it playable on a PC. So, I mean, maybe to answer your question, Dalan, it's like, nah, we're not seeing a portable from the Xbox, but it's just a completely different company, man. It's just it's its own thing. It's software based. That's what it's always been, right? I mean, Windows, it's like, let's have it on every PC possible. So, but yeah, anything else, Dalan, before we move on to the next?
No, that was the end of my thought on that one.
Yeah, I'm down, man. I'm down for the next Vita or whatever. Get more trophies.
The next Vita, the new legacy system.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Number 8 we have here at 6 points for Mega Man 11 appearing on the PlayStation store for Singapore. Now, according to the listing that ended up popping up, it said that the game would be out October 3rd, but there hasn't been any official announcement for it. But it did describe that it talked about a new double gearing system, saying that this lets you boost Mega Man's speed and power for a new twist on the satisfying gameplay the series is known for. Honestly, just for the game itself, I'm hyped for this beautifully hand-drawn environment, coupled with the detailed 3D models that they actually have. And to me, it's just a better coat of paint. Period. I mean, there was what was it, Mighty Number 9 that came out that was supposed to be a successor, and of course, completely flopped and didn't look good at all. But now they have this new Mega Man game. It's not even Mega Man X. I wish they'd make a new Mega Man X game, but Mega Man 11. Fact is that they're coming out with a nice little double gear system. But are you actually excited to play this Mega Man game? I know you played a couple of them at least.
Yeah, I mean, I played the last. I beat the first couple Mega Mans, 1, 2, recently actually, and I was like, man, I really dig this style of play. And I kind of like how the series has gone and it's kind of stayed sort of relevant. I don't know if it's the biggest selling series, but and I did play 9 and 10, and you know what? I was looking it up, and 10 was actually released in 2010, man. So this one's been kind of gestating for quite a bit, man. But it seems like they're changing it quite. I know you're saying you wish there was a Mega Man X, but it seems like they're kind of going in that direction. They have this double gear system that you were talking about, and now it's going to be 3D models with the hand-drawn environments. So it's going to be sort of, I get the sense that it's going to be sort of a 2.D version of it. I'm down to try it out. I'm down to check it out. I did like 9 and 10, and those were extremely, well, I don't know if extremely, but they were tough. They were tough platformers, right? It took you a while to beat them. So I'm down, man. I'm down for an 11. I like that. you know, it's a story. This kind of stuff happens all the time, right? It pops up on a PlayStation store. The thing about this one that it had a full description, right? It was like a couple paragraphs of like, yeah. So I think it's coming out. They said October 3rd. We'll see what else we get from it. So, but I'm down. I'm down to check it out. I'm down to try it out. I kind of would rather them stick to the old school NES motif, but I think they're going that route that you speak of, sort of Mega Man X.
Well, even though I'm saying Mega Man X, most of it is still trying to actually keep that original retro Mega Man type style gameplay, just with I guess a little bit of Mega Man X thrown into there. It's like the in between of how we get to Mega Man X, which would be awesome to me either way.
Yeah.
But with the way that this game is actually being released, I'm just hoping it doesn't turn into another Mighty Number 9. But I'm actually going to answer one of your questions, or more of one of your concerns. Is that that big gap between 2010 and 2018? That's because they decided to release their Mega Man Legacy versions, and they were waiting for those to sell. And they did.
Well, yeah, but I mean, they could have gave it to Digital Eclipse. They could have. There's good porting house that they could have given it to and actually worked on a follow-up. So I don't think that's a fair excuse. I understand what you're saying, but
it gave them time.
Yeah, no, but it's whatever. If that's really the reason, it's a nonsense reason. It's a BS reason. How about that? But I'm excited for it. I like I said, we haven't gotten one of these sort of games, and we did get Mighty Number 9, which I believe was even the original creator and all that. So it's kind of like, well, who else is left at Capcom to continue this? And hopefully they're able to get it done. I mean, if Sonic Mania was able to do it, man, then maybe these guys can do it too. So we'll see what happens. But next, now that we're going kind of on a retro trip or a nostalgia trip, if you will. So the Nintendo was recently found filing a trademark for the N64 name, hinting that we might get an N64 Mini soon. There's no official word yet, but it looks a little closer to likely than not, Dalan. And I know they've done this before. They kind of keep the trademark going, and they have to keep sometimes they register stuff just so it can stay in their database or whatever it is. But would you be excited for an N64 Mini, Dale? What do you think should be? What game should be on there? It seems like they're giving us less and less, right? The NES Classic gave us 30 games, I believe. SNES Classic gave us 22. So I guess we're lucky if we get 10 games on the N64 Mini. Which games would you like to see on there?
First off, I'm going to say, over the N64 Classic, I'd rather see the Dreamcast Classic, because
completely different company, Dalan. What would you like to see as far as the N64?
But you in the middle of it, you ended up bringing it. I was like, I want my mini Dreamcast, because that was patented too. And I saw their little picture.
Trust me, I would want it to. But stick to what we're talking about.
As for the 64, I mean, there are a couple of games that just have to be on it because they're the classics and people love them for that. And of course, they need to have a port to be able to actually allow people to have their own personal controllers, be able to plug into that thing. Have the original 64 controller ports to be able to plug
which were terrible. Which were complete dog doo-doo.
But people want them anyway. But they need to have GoldenEye. They got to have Mario Kart 64. They got to have Mario 64. Of course, you're talking about their major IPs.
The two Zeldas, I would think. They have to have GoldenEye, I don't know, it might be a little tough. GoldenEye, I think, would be a little tough just based on, licensing issues and Rare is a Microsoft company now and all that. But I think that one would be tough. It kind of sucks because that would be the one, right? Even Perfect Dark, but that's still a Rare property. So it's kind of like, man, those are the ones that you would want in there. I'm sure we'd get the Banjo-Tooies. Well, man, that's Rare too. Jet Force Gemini, we'd have to get on there. I think, of course, like you were saying, Mario 64.
I was going to say Star Fox. That'd be on there.
My biggest thing would be like, well, how many controllers comes with it? Because the SNES had 2 controllers. I doubt they would give you 4 controllers, man. They might give you 2, and then you just gotta hope you can find them in stores. Those ugly controllers.
That's what I'm talking about. Is that you'd want to create a mini system that actually at least has the 4 ports, so you can actually.
It won't give you the 4, man. No. I think it will have the ports. I think you're right. It has to have the ports to have 4 controllers, but that they'll include 4 controllers. I don't know, man. We're lucky to get 2, I would think. And they're like, all right, hope you can find them in the stores then. Hope you can find the other 2. But speaking of Dreamcast, I guess there really was a Dreamcast Mini. This got to be Jet Grind Radio.
You know, I never thought about those games.
Well, you get through your quick list, you know, and then we move on. Jet Grind Radio, Shenmue, which is, you know, it's probably doesn't age very well. Then you got, I would throw in Sonic, Tony Hawk 2, Sonic Adventure would be on there, I guess. Skies of Arcadia, man. Skies of Arcadia would have to be on there. Crazy Taxi, of course. Crazy Taxi. What about you, Dalan? What about you? What would have to be on there?
One of the other games that would need to be on there is 99 Nights, or 99. I can't even say it. What was it? It was called Knights or something like that. It was the purple guy. It had like.
Well, that was on Saturn, man, and that didn't even get a sequel till on Wii.
Hey, I'm pretty sure that there was a version of it on the Dreamcast. No, there was
no. There was a Knights, which was on Saturn, and then there was a Knights Christmas edition, which was on Saturn. And then people were really hyped. They did actually a sequel on the Wii, which was kind of trash, but it did come out so many years later. But yeah, Dreamcast never got a Knights, man.
Well, it did have.
I just want to throw it in there anyway.
No, I did have Soul Calibur too, so I would.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Marvel's Capcom 1. They'd have to throw that one on.
Take you for a ride.
Exactly, you need to have Marvel's Capcom 1 on there.
Yeah,
well, there was another one that I had in the back of my mind. Rival Schools. I mean, it was one of the best games that came out for the Dreamcast.
It's a good list. I like it.
One game that I would love to see on the Dreamcast Mini, which I doubt they'll do unless they allow the Dreamcast Mini to go online, and they'd have to open up servers for it, is Phantasy Star Online. Way too many people played that game.
Oh, that's right, man. Yeah, that's right. That would. The Dreamcast was good. That Dreamcast was good, and we can move on to the next thing, but so good. Hardly knew ye. Dreamcast hardly knew ye. All right, Dalan. Dreamcast hardly knew ye.
I don't miss those gigabyte freaking memory cards though. Those things were terrible.
Well, I mean, they were just sort of like halfway between a DVD and a Blu-ray or whatever it is.
No. Whatever it was. I'm talking about the memory cards you put in the controllers.
Yeah, the VMUs were. I used it, man. I used it for a couple of things. I used it for the Chaos thing or the Chows or whatever on Skies of Arcadia, and you could use it for a couple different things.
You don't have Chows and Skies of Arcadia, do you?
I think they were. I don't know if they were pronounced that way. I know what you're talking. Sonic Adventure had them too.
Yeah. I didn't know they had them in both games.
Yeah, Skies of Arcadia. I don't know. Maybe it was called something else. They were like little mini characters that you level up and all that, and it had little mini games. It wasn't that amazing. It was more of a novelty for 2 minutes, and then you were like, "All right, I can move on with my life."
Kind of like
we're gonna move on to our next thing. Oh, and that one, the N64 thing had 6 points. Just so you guys know, whoever's keeping the score out there. And what do we got next? And the last thing here on our salient points list.
Number 10, it was 5 points, which is still a pretty high amount of points for us. Is David Leach? I'm going to call him David Leach. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but I'm going to call him David Leach.
Go ahead, Dalan. Stop apologizing, man. Say it however you feel is right.
All right,
continue.
That's your new name. I'm breaking the video game movie curse. Now, the director of John Wick and Deadpool 2, David Leitch, is on board for making the live-action adaptation of the popular game Tom Clancy's The Division. So I'm actually kind of excited to see a movie that's potentially built properly. I mean, just listen to the way he actually said how the formula should actually be, because he actually understands that there are two different experiences. Obviously, the video game, you're telling your own story, and it's just completely active. And the cinema is all about one person's point of view, guiding a story and telling you a story. He also added the fact that it's like there are bigger themes in there that you can pull out of the game and attach to some great characters that can be for some compelling story. Now, I didn't read all that verbatim, but that's basically what he said. Now, the movie is actually still a little ways away simply because he's in the middle of working on a Fast and Furious spinoff. But for you, Carlos, just to let you know, for this Division movie that he's going to be making, he's already signed on actors Jake Gyllenhaal and one of your favorites, Jessica Chastain.
Yes, very much so. Very much so. I am a fan.
Now, just saying that he obviously understands the difference between trying to make a game and trying to make a movie, do you think he might have actually realized the formula for being able to make a movie based on a video game properly?
I mean, it's good, I think, that you brought up that he was the director of John Wick and Deadpool 2. And so this guy has some pedigree, and I think he understands, based on what he's saying, he understands the difference of the two experiences. But to be honest, it's just a bunch of smoke, man. Did you play Division? The Division is just like sort of an empty playground. I'm saying it empty in the sense that he can just pretty much tell whatever story he wants, right? And just slap the Division on it. It's one of those things that I think he gets carte blanche, and it's like, thank you for giving me $30 million to make, whatever it is. Let me finish my point real quick, Dalan. As far as the Division, to me, it's like, you can tell whatever story you want. It's like a perfect format. And this guy's like, yeah, all right, give me $50 million to make whatever movie I want, because what is the Division story, right? I mean, maybe it can be an outbreak thing or a zombie sort of thing or whatever it is. But it's really like this guy, they just gave him a whole bunch of money. It's awesome that, yes, he understands the difference between a video game and a movie and all that stuff. But honestly, what I'm reading is like, thanks for the carte blanche, and thanks for putting. I always wanted to make an action movie, and I can basically make whatever action movie I want, because the Division, what story does it ultimately have, right? And I don't mean it in a bad way.
Carlos, that's the thing, is it actually does have a deep lore, and apparently you were not paying attention.
I don't care about the lore.
Apparently you didn't care at all, because with the first 30 levels up until the point where you've actually rebuilt your base and everything like that, there's a whole story there. There was a complete story. It was all about the infection, being passed with money, going to all these other people. There were the LTBs, or whatever the heck the name of that other group was. They were out there with that one leader who decided to actually poison everybody to try to actually create an epidemic. There was a whole deep story there. Well, and all they need to do is all they need to do is take one character and tell that story.
Yeah, no, it's not gonna happen, man. I'll bet you $20 that this guy's like, look, it said the Division universe. He's already saying it, man. He's already saying the video game is its own thing. The movie's a different thing. He's already saying it. He's basically said, thanks for the blank check. I will make a cool little action movie in the Division universe, which is not a bad thing. It really isn't. I think it's just kind of awesome that, it's kind of hard to get movies funded, right? So he's kind of like, thanks for the blank check. Yes, you can slap Division onto whatever movie I want to make, and I'll make it awesome. And it's going to have Jessica Chastain. So, I'm showing up to it, Dalan. But,
good or bad, you're going to show up to see Jessica Chastain.
Yeah, I think it would be the closest maybe equivalent to it would maybe be like sort of like the Resident Evil movies, how those were. And I'm not saying whether those, I'm not saying the quality, right? I'm just saying in the sense that it's sort of in the same universe, right? But they sort of switched it up. It's kind of a little different than what the games are. Some of the names cross over and that kind of thing. But I don't think the Division is really that lore filled. And yes, I know that you care about the lore, Dalan. I understand. But it's not as much as like, say, Resident Evil 1 and Resident Evil 2 that people even like myself knew about Jill Valentine. They knew about all these different characters that were not that deep into the lore. And even that, they switched it up. So I think this will be a similar way that the Resident Evil movie series went, where they're just telling their own tale, So I'm sorry to shatter your dreams like that, Dalan, but I honestly, that's what I feel. And I hope it's good, man. I hope it's good. I hope it's good. I hope it's good, and I'll show up if it is. Is that it, Dalan? Did you have anything more to say on that?
Well, I'm just going to say we're on two different sides of the fence here. I think he may actually at least attempt to make a good movie based on this video game, because there is a story and there was a lot to it, and especially if you start reading all the intel that you can actually pick up throughout the game. But I know you definitely didn't go back and listen to all those.
For sure I didn't. I was just trying to level, man, play with the homies, trying to get as high of a level as I could, and to move on, man. Yeah, so for sure, no, I didn't get into the lore. But I hope it's good, man. If it's good, Justine, again, she's in it. I will be highly interested to watch that. So one more thing then before we get out of here, we're going pretty long. There was some good debating happening on this episode. My +1, and this was my +1 last time, but it's sort of, we got a little bit more details on it. It's about Resident Evil 7 and its cloud version saves. So apparently, and this is a cloud game, right, that you play and you're streaming off of their servers, and it's in Japan only for now. But Capcom said that it doesn't guarantee your saves will work flawlessly. They're not saved locally. Instead, they're saved on Capcom's own internal servers, and we did get some more details on how it works. The game launched on the Japanese eShop last week and lets you play the first 15 minutes for free. Then you have to pay a 180-day ticket priced at 2,000 yen, which is about $18, which I thought that's kind of weird, I guess. So they're not even selling you the game. They're nothing. They don't even give you the courtesy of a download where, like, you don't really own it, but play it however long. These guys are basically saying for 180 days, you can play this game for 18 hours. And your saves might get lost somewhere along the way. Do you think, Dalan, that the Nintendo Switch cloud gaming is getting off to a good start? I still have to. Sorry to interrupt, and I'll let you get to it. I still haven't seen how it runs. I didn't get a chance to. I want to see how it actually runs and how it compares to it running on your local system. But what you're hearing from it, are you convinced that you should dip into cloud gaming if it ever hits our shores over here?
Well, I definitely get the fact that they want to be conservative about the amount of space that they're trying to take up on a Switch, especially if you want your other games.
That's what it is, though.
But no, but I think that's part. No, but you were talking about the fact that they don't give you the courtesy of being able to download the game and keep it if you're actually paying for it. They're giving you the service of 4 months of being able to stream it through their service, and they're keeping the whole large gigabyte game on their servers. And in order to actually get it to all these people, they will be able to continue to use it. I mean, I think it's a smart move in regards to continue.
On that point, just to get on that point, I don't mean that they don't let you download. I'm saying that. Just making the comparison that when you download a game, like I call it, you're renting it, right? On your PS4, you download a game, you're actually renting it. You have the license of using it forever. So, maybe that got lost when I was saying it, but I don't mean that they don't let you download it. I mean, they're only giving you 180 days to play this game. What they could do is like pay us the 2,000 yen, and this is your game forever. You're not going to be able to download it, right? But you're going to be able to dip into our servers and play it for however long you want. So that's what I'm referring to as far as how at least give me the courtesy of I can play this game 3 years from now and I paid it, 3 years ago or whatever.
Well, I guess it would be like a super soft launch, trying to make sure that people actually want to play the stream version of it, and also to make sure that, their servers don't crash.
I mean, they're just trying to get away with some stuff. They're like, it's kind of like instead of porting it or trying to port it to the Switch, they're like, you know what? We have plenty of PCs back here. Some of our games haven't worked out. And here, we're just going to slap Resident Evil 7 PC edition, and you guys can stream it onto your Switch. It's $18. You get 180 days. It's kind of like a cheap, like used car salesman or something, right? It's like, you know what? If you really want to play it like this, here you go, $20. You get it for a few days.
Now, I will say for the save files, they need to figure that out. Just period. They need to figure that out.
Yeah. I think, and it's a save file, right? It's not gonna take up the most room on your Switch, even as limited as the Switch can be. Let you have a local save file, man. And these guys are over here talking about, we're doing that. Your save file is gonna be on the cloud too. We'll see if it's there tomorrow. Well, you're just gonna have to find out. You're just gonna have to tune in to find out.
They're making everybody use a broken memory card that you don't know if it's going to actually retain all your data.
Yeah. So what else? What else you got, Dalan? What's your one more thing for this week?
And one more thing, as Uncle said from Jackie Chan's Adventures, Bloodstained: Curse of the Moon manages to improve on a Pantheon level classic. Now.
That's an opinion. That's an opinion.
That's I was going to say. Well, actually, I will say it does seem to have its improvements for the game, because I bought it. I bought it on the Switch as soon as I could. It was only $9.99, and I pretty much fell in love with it instantly. I played the original Castlevania games on the Nintendo way back when, because my sister was just a huge fan of Castlevania games. And I remember the lead foot of walking around with any Belmont, and it was terrible trying to walk up some steps. They got rid of that. You no longer have the lead foot, and I think that's completely awesome. I mean, we're still waiting on the spiritual successor to Symphony of the Night, being Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, and I love the fact that they got really creative with the names. But even though they came out with this prequel, Curse of the Moon, it's still Bloodstained Curse of the Moon, it's 8-bit, kind of looks like the original ones that Konami had made back on the Nintendo back in the 80s, but it seems to be more fast-paced. They give you additional characters that you can actually play with and switch through. They make all the bosses look beautiful on the screen. They look terrifying yet awesome to look at the same time. And you got to figure out the mechanics for these things. Definitely feels like a Metroidvania with the exception that you don't have to keep going back and forth on a level. So it's really, you got like 5 or 6 levels that you just keep moving forward through. There is a replay value to actually go back and find all the extra stuff to try and get the special ending. But one playthrough, it really respects your time, Carlos. It's only like an hour and 15 minutes long, or an hour and a half long. If you just sit there and decide to play it one day, you can actually beat it in one little sitting.
You know what? I own the game. At least I hoped. I backed the game. They're over here talking about, oh, we won't be able to get your download codes till like June 8th or something like that. I'm like, are you guys serious? Like, and I like how they put it. They're like, yeah, we don't know when we'll be able to get them. This is something, unfortunately, we can't get around. And they're like, oh, but we'll give you a Steam code. So yes, this last week, Dalan, I spent like about 7 hours trying to remember my Steam password. I don't remember it. I haven't been able to recover it.
Oh, is that why you texted me? You texted me about that. I remember.
Yeah, because I think we shared like our Steam thing or something at some point, right? And I was trying to recover it. I haven't been able to, because they give you a temporary Steam code. They're like, okay, so but when we are able to get you your code, and I picked the Vita but you're saying it's an hour and a half, huh? Maybe I should have switched to PS4. But I got it for Vita because like if it's hard, I want to be able to play it on the go and all this stuff. But it's kind of it's pretty terrible, man. It's the whole thing. It's a mess. But I want to play it. I want to mess with it.
Carlos, I bought it on the Switch.
Okay, I can mess with it.
Yeah, so I was still able to play it portably. I went to a diner early in the morning. I was sitting there playing the first level.
Oh, you know what? I was thinking about that. I was thinking about the Switch version, but you know, the Switch version doesn't have trophies then. So how about that? I'll give it to you like that. But no, even if I would have picked the Switch version, it's still the same nonsense. It's still, they weren't giving out the codes for any console versions. They only had Steam codes, apparently.
Carlos, just pick it up. It's $10. You get to support the people that make these games.
I already did. I kickstarted it. The reason you can play it is because I was there to kickstart it right from the beginning. All
right. Help them out a little bit more. Put an extra $10 in there. I'm sure
I ain't putting no extra $10 in their coffers. That's it for Salient Points number 33. Again, I'm Carlos Macias, your host. You can find me at Do Say Clean on Twitter. Dalan, where can they find you?
You can find me. You can mainly find me on YouTube at CloudNeftis2, or you can find me at _Zacia_ on Twitter. But one last thing I will say about my Castlevania game now. Well, sorry, not Castlevania. It's new title, Bloodstained.
Hold on, before people maybe tune out or whatever it is, Dalan, I'll let you say your piece. I'm gonna be in New York this weekend, and I think I'm gonna be there up till Monday, so we got to figure out. Maybe we record Wednesday or something like that, Dalan. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But Monday is looking unlikely. Next week is all I'm saying. So, what did you want to say, Dalan?
You really couldn't wait for me to finish my statement before you did that. Man,
because it's one of those trail off things. If you guys listen to the audio version of this, it's like it trails off. So go ahead and say your piece, Dalan. I'll let you speak.
All right, last piece. I was talking about that lead foot issue when you're trying to go up and down the stairs. Even though they fixed the fact that it's actually pretty quick to go up and down the stairs, you still can't jump off the stairs. They need to fix that.
It looks pretty awesome, man. It looks like a cool game, you know, and I want to check it out. But I kickstarted, man. What else do you want? The reason you're able to enjoy it, Dalan. But it's really upsetting. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Hopefully, we'll get our codes pretty soon, and we'll check them out.
No, did you kickstart Ritual of the Night, or did you kickstart Curse of the Moon?
No, it was that. It was that, and they got enough. They do milestones, or they do, what do they call them? I think it's milestones or something. They call it something. Whatever it is, they reached it so they could do this 8-bit side story.
Oh, okay.
So they got enough money.
They were supposed to give you a code.
Yeah, so I kickstarted both of them, and I'm still waiting for the actual game. And this other thing, they supposed to give me a code, they didn't. Whatever. I'm not bitter about it. I'm fine. I'll just survive it. I'll just
of course, you're not bitter about it. I can hear it in your voice that you're so chill about it.
And thanks for the one viewer that showed up at the very end. Shout out to the one viewer that's watching us. A little late, but you'll be able to catch it on YouTube for full. It'll be streaming, or not streaming, but what do you call it? On demand.
It'll be uploaded.
It'll be on demand. All right. See you guys later. Thanks for watching.